Welcome to the world beyond imagination. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And enjoy the journey. The auditorium of the Vayari War Academy was cold with blue light. And colder with judgment, rows and rows of cadets watched in silence. Their faces a dark ocean of shapes, their eyes reflecting the cyan glow of the command console. 3 instructors stood at the front, armored in white and gold. Like statues carved for a funeral, the male on the left, red-brown scales and sharp crests along his neck, held a glowing datapad as if it weighed more than a rifle. His voice carried through the hall, steady, official, almost bored. Today we review the performance record of a single Earth Marine. Today we answer the question every cadet keeps whispering. What is the kill count ratio for one human soldier? A ripple passed through the crowd. The female in the center, cyan skin, calm eyes, did not look at the audience. She stared at the holographic readouts floating above the console. As if staring too long might summon the man himself, the massive male on the right. Dark teal scales and heavy armor leaned in. Claws resting on the metal edge, his jaw tightened, and the lights caught the sharp line of his teeth. The red-scaled instructor lifted the datapad, and for the first time, his voice did not sound bored, it sounded careful. Like he was holding a live grenade. Before we show the ratio, he said, you will understand the cost. A cadet in the back laughed. One short mocking sound, cost for one Marine. The big teal instructor turned his head slowly toward that laugh. The hall went still, like breathing became illegal. The teal instructor spoke, low and heavy, if you laugh again, you will leave this academy. The cadet swallowed the rest of his pride. The cyan female instructor touched the console, and the hologram shifted. A title appeared in shimmering blue. Earth Marine, Sergeant Elias Rourke. Conflict designation, the glass corridor incident. The red-scaled instructor continued. This Marine arrived as part of a humanitarian escort. He was not assigned to combat. He was assigned to keep medical ships safe while civilians evacuated. A soft murmur spread again, not assigned to combat, then how? The cyan instructor finally lifted her eyes to the audience, because humans do not wait to be assigned. She said, they decide. The hologram changed, and the room filled with the image of a corridor. Long, narrow, metallic, lit by emergency blue. On one end, a sealed blast door, on the other, a shattered gate leading into smoke. The red-scaled instructor's voice softened, almost unwillingly. The enemy boarded the station at midnight cycle. They cut through the outer ring. They took the nursery levels first. They wanted hostages. They wanted screens for leverage. The crowd shifted, uncomfortable. The teal instructor added, the enemy species is known for cruelty. They do not trade prisoners. They trade body parts. Someone whispered a prayer. The cyan instructor tapped again, and a new image surfaced. A human in dark combat gear, helmet under one arm. A face that looked too tired to be young. Eyes like storm clouds refusing to rain. A small scar at the edge of his mouth. A patch on his shoulder that read Earth Marine Corps. The red-scaled instructor said, Sergeant Rourke made a choice in that corridor. He found 87 civilians trapped behind a jammed blast door. They were children, elders, and unarmed staff. The medical shuttle was minutes away, but the corridor to the shuttle was already breached. The audience leaned forward. This was the moment. They could feel it. The moment where a single number began to grow teeth. The cyan instructor spoke, her voice quiet, sharp. The station security had withdrawn. They had orders to protect command staff. They left the civilians. The teal instructor's claw flexed on the console. The human did not withdraw, he stayed. The hologram shifted to a tactical map. Red shapes flooding toward a narrow blue line, one human. A cadet's voice broke through, unable to help it. One soldier cannot hold a corridor. The red-scaled instructor looked directly at him. Humans do not hold corridors with strength. They hold them with refusal, the cyan instructor said. Sergeant Rourke found a maintenance cart. He overturned it. He ripped open the station wall panels with his bare hands. He rewired the emergency lights to strobe. He scattered coolant canisters across the floor. He turned a clean hallway into a trap that smelled like metal and ice. The audience listened, breath caught. This was not a normal battle report. It sounded like a story the dead would tell. The red-scaled instructor continued. Then he opened a channel to the trapped civilians behind the blast door. He told them to cover their ears. He told them to keep their hands over the smallest mouths. He told them to stay silent. Then he said one word before he cut the channel: run. The word appeared on the hologram in bold blue letters. And even the cadets felt it like a slap. The teal instructor's voice deepened. He did not mean run out. He meant run your hearts forward. Because he was about to buy them time with his own. The scene shifted again, audio logs, crackling, distorted. A human voice, rough, breathing hard. This is Rourke, Earth Marine. If anyone is listening, the corridor is mine. Move the civilians now. The cadets heard gunfire, short controlled bursts. They heard the heavy wet sound of bodies dropping. They heard a human inhale like pain was a familiar friend. The red-scaled instructor spoke over it. The enemy charged in groups of 6. Then 12, then 20. They expected him to panic. Instead, he used their momentum against them. He fired only when he could confirm a clean shot. He used ricochets. He used the strobing lights to break their depth perception. He used the coolant to make the floor a mirror of death. The cyan instructor said, he did not scream, he did not taunt. He only whispered into his helmet. As if speaking to someone who was no longer alive. Hold on, Mina, he said, hold on. The audience stiffened. A name, a person. A crack in the armor of the legend. The red-scaled instructor looked down at his datapad. And for a moment, he seemed ashamed. Sergeant Rourke's partner, Corporal Mina Ash, had been killed minutes earlier. Her last message to him was simple: save them. The cyan instructor's eyes hardened. And he obeyed. The hologram flashed, showing heat signatures. Rourke's body temperature dropping. His hands shaking, his ammo counter low. His oxygen gauge blinking. A cadet whispered, he should have retreated. The teal instructor answered instantly. Like he had waited years to say it, retreat was not available. Because retreat meant the blast door would open to blood. The audio log returned. Rourke's voice again, closer to a growl now. You want them, come through ME. In the front row, a young cadet flinched. Not from fear, from something worse. From admiration that felt like danger. The red-scaled instructor raised the datapad higher. This is where the ratio begins, he said. Because the human did not measure survival in minutes. He measured it in bodies he refused to let pass. The hologram showed the blast door behind him. A faint trembling, hands pushing from the inside. Civilians trying to move, trying to escape. The cyan instructor said, at minute 7, the blast door jam cleared. The civilians began to move through the corridor. They were not soldiers. They were terrified. They ran past the human like water past a rock. Some of them looked at him. Some of them cried. One child touched his armored leg as she passed. He did not look down. He could not. The teal instructor added, he kept firing. He kept moving. He kept stepping forward even as the enemy piled up. He walked through smoke and ice and blood like a man walking through a storm he had promised to endure. The audience was silent now, fully silent, no whispers, no shifting. Just the hum of the blue lights, the red-scaled instructor said. At minute 9, the enemy changed tactics. They deployed a breacher beast. A creature designed to tear metal doors apart. It entered the corridor. And the station cameras shook from its roar. The hologram displayed it. Huge, armored, fast. A nightmare with muscles. The cadets stiffened. They had studied breacher beasts. They knew what they did to bodies. The science instructor's voice lowered. Careful. Sergeant Rourke had no heavy explosives. No support team, no turret, only his rifle, his knife. And the last promise he ever made to Mina Ash: save them. The teal instructor leaned closer to the red-scaled instructor continued. He fired into its eyes. He slid under its charge on the coolant-slick floor. He planted a coolant canister against its throat plating. Then he drove his knife in, deep, twisting. The canister ruptured, freezing tissue. Weakening armor seams, he fired again, point blank. The beast collapsed, smashing the corridor wall. The impact sealed the corridor behind the last group of civilians. A wall of twisted metal, a barrier made from the enemy's own weapon. The science instructor exhaled. Slowly, the civilians escaped, all of them. A wave of relief passed through the crowd, soft and shaky. Then the teal instructor's voice cut through that relief like a blade. And then the enemy returned. The hologram shifted to show a new red surge. Larger, angrier, more bodies, more weapons, more hunger. The red-scaled instructor said, at minute 11. Sergeant Rourke's rifle jammed. His hands were numb from coolant burn. His shoulder was dislocated. His helmet was cracked. He had already killed more than any soldier on this academy's record. And still the enemy came, because they believed one human must finally break. The science instructor looked at the audience with eyes like ice. He did not break. He spoke into the open channel. For anyone to hear, friend or enemy, and he said, not today. The word hit the hall like thunder, even through the recording. It sounded alive, the teal instructor added. He used the broken maintenance cart like a battering ram. He smashed knees. He crushed throats. He fought at breath range. He used his own body as a wall. The red-scaled instructor lowered his datapad slightly, and his voice turned rough, almost personal. At minute 13, he was found not by rescue teams, but by the last surviving enemy commander. The commander stood over him and demanded surrender. The commander promised mercy. The human laughed, blood in his teeth, and answered with one sentence, mercy is for the innocent. I am busy. The hall remained frozen. The cadets did not know whether to fear the human or worship him. The science instructor said, Sergeant Rourke was finally knocked unconscious. But the civilians were gone, and the corridor behind them was sealed. The enemy could not reach them. The red-scaled instructor straightened. Now cadets, we show the number you came to see. The kill count ratio for one Earth Marine. The hologram pulsed, brighter. The audience leaned forward. The red-scaled instructor spoke the ratio slowly, making each word land, one Marine, against over 900 enemy combatants. Enemy confirmed casualties attributed to Sergeant Rourke. Over 300 enemy combatants delayed, redirected, or neutralized by his traps and corridor collapse. The remainder, civilians saved, 87, all survived. The hall did not cheer. It did not erupt. It did not move. It went into pure, stunned silence. A cadet finally whispered, voice trembling, that is impossible. The teal instructor answered, it is documented. The science instructor stepped forward, and her tone changed, becoming the sharpest weapon in the room. But you are still missing the true ratio, she said, because the academy asked the wrong question. She turned the hologram again, and a new number appeared. Smaller, heavier, more cruel, allied casualties won. The audience frowned, confused. The science instructor said, one allied casualty, Corporal Mina Ash, and she died before the corridor was held. The human did not increase that number. He carried it. He carried it like a wound that would never close. The teal instructor added, the ratio that stunned us was not enemy bodies. It was the gap between what humans can do and what they must live with afterward, the red-scaled instructor said quietly. Because after the evacuation, Sergeant Rourke refused awards. He refused interviews. He asked only one thing. To speak to the rescued civilians, the hologram shifted again, showing a medical bay, bright, sterile. A human sitting on the floor, back against a wall, helmet in his lap. Children gathered near him, adults watching from a distance, unsure whether to approach a man who looked like a weapon. The audio log played one last time, and the human voice was softer now. Broken in places, "I am sorry," he said. "I could not save everyone. I could not save Mina, but you are here, so you will live like she would have wanted. You will live." The Cyan instructor's eyes glistened, and she did not hide it. This is why the Academy was speechless. She said, not because the human killed, but because the human chose to suffer, so strangers could escape. The Teal instructor looked out over the cadets. His voice like stone, "You came here to learn tactics. But the human teaches something deeper. He teaches that courage is not the moment you win. It is the moment you decide someone else matters more than your fear." The red-scaled instructor raised his datapad for the final time. "There's one more detail," he said. A message Sergeant Rourke left on the corridor wall before he collapsed. Scratched into metal with his knife, the hologram displayed the words, "Jagged raw, if you take them, you take a me." The hall remained silent. Then, from the back platform, a door opened. A figure stepped into the blue light, human, tall, lean. Uniform simple compared to the Academy's shining armor. A scar at the edge of his mouth, eyes like storm clouds refusing to rain. Sergeant Elias Rourke walked down the aisle slowly, not like a hero. Like a man returning to a place he never wanted to visit again. The cadets stared, breathing shallow. The instructor stepped aside without a word. Rourke reached the console, and the Cyan instructor offered him the microphone. He did not take it immediately. He looked out at the crowd, and his gaze felt like it touched every single face. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried, "Do not chase numbers," he said. "Numbers do not bleed. Numbers do not wake up at night hearing the last breath of a friend. You want the truth about the ratio." He paused, and the hall leaned closer. "The truth is this: if you ever have to stand alone, stand for someone who cannot stand for themselves. And if you survive, do not pretend it was easy." His throat tightened, and for a moment, his eyes went distant. Then he lifted his chin, and one word came out like a command and a prayer together. "Remember." He stepped back, and the three alien instructors stood with him. Not above him, with him. The blue holograms dimmed. The vast audience stayed silent, not because they were afraid, but because they had finally understood. One Earth Marine's kill count ratio was not a boast. It was a warning and a promise that when darkness comes, a human can become a wall, and the wall will hold, even if the wall breaks. And somewhere in the cold blue light of that academy, every cadet felt the same thought. Sharp and undeniable: if one human can do that,